Welcome back, everyone. This is the second part in a three-part series for the KWC UZI disassembly. In the first part, we took apart the lower. In this part, we're going to be taking apart the upper. And in the third part, we will be disassembling the bolt. For this disassembly, you will need one flathead and one Phillips screwdriver, one pin punch, and a 0.9 millimeter Allen key. You will also need a plastic or rubber mallet. To begin, we are going to remove the pin from the lower. Go and start it with your mallet. We can go and remove these. On the back of the cover, there is a button. Just push that back. And push the bolt back and lift up to remove. First thing we're going to do is remove the rear sight. On the right side of the rear sight, you can see a grub screw inside of the button. We are going to remove that with the Allen key. You do not need to remove the Allen key, the grub screw all the way out, just most of the way. So you can just leave that in there and set it aside. And you will need to unscrew the rear sight. All right, just the screw, the rear sight, and you have the rear sight spring. Next, we're going to remove the barrel. Go ahead and push this button to the rear and unscrew the barrel nut. And all of this comes out. The outer barrel, and you have a spring and the barrel nut. And go and remove the button for the barrel nut. And the front sling mount. And on the inside, there is a spring that will fall out if you just tilt forward. All right. On the bottom of the receiver, you have 5 screws, 3 that are holding down the rear bar and trunnion and stock, and 2 Phillips head screws that are holding in the hop-up unit. These 3, for me, are flatheads because I changed them out for the originals, which were Phillips, as the originals stripped very easily. So let's go and remove all these. All right, and now you can rotate the rear stock outwards and pull it just backwards. So it rotates like this. You're going to rotate it up and then pull it back and then back straight again. The hop-up unit, you're going to push it forward and then you can rotate it and pull it out. And you're rotating it upward with the leaf upwards like this. And that is everything in the receiver that needs to be removed. So set that aside. Disassembling the hop-up unit is also very simple. On the bottom, and you can just pull the hop arm and the spring, just pull that away. You have this little chunk that just simply needs to be removed. Take your flathead screwdriver, insert it into the front, and you can simply push up on the chunk, and you should at that point be able to grab onto it, hopefully, and whoop, went flying off there. And here it is. This is the piece that you just removed, and that holds into the barrel, which can be removed. And the hop up can simply be pushed out. You may want to use a screwdriver for this, just gently, so you don't tear up the rubber. And the rubber comes out. Unfortunately, this is a proprietary rubber and a proprietary barrel system. But here's all the components there. Just put the spring back on first. And thanks to this O-ring, you can't take it off this end. And the arm, like this, with the arm facing to the rear. And that's how that goes back together. And that is it. So let's go and put it back together. The hop up, you can see that the rear is the side that is slanted. That slants on it. It's going to go in first. And with the bump on the top, the groove. All right, go and fit this in with the opening to the top. And that just goes in real simple. Make sure that these little wedges, these little cutouts, are on the sides, because that is what this is going to bite into. That's what this is going to fit into. So just push that in, and maybe rotate. If it doesn't want to go in, just rotate the barrel until you can find those two slots, and it fits in real nice. And now you can't remove the barrel anymore. All right, make sure the hop-up bar goes into the top and that little slot. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we can go and put it back into the receiver. And like that. Just make sure at this point you're lining up the hop-up bar. You don't want that to actually get lost. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, I think we're good. Wow. So you need to make sure when you're doing this that the hop-up bar is actually into the groove like it's supposed to. So we look pretty good now. So you might have to push that in with a little bit of force. Okay, now we can go ahead and put the rear trunnion and the stock back in. So put it at an angle and then kind of straighten it out as you go. And it just fits in. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, looks pretty good. And we just place the 5 screws back in. And that it all looks fantastic. Everything is in here pretty well. Feels solid. All right, I think we're good. Next up is the rear sight. Whoops. I'm gonna take the spring, and the tab end goes first. You'll notice that one of the sides of the rear sight is cone-shaped, whereas the other side is flat. The cone-shaped side goes to the rear, and just screw that into the rear sight screw. You simply need to get in far enough to be able to put the button on the other side. And you notice the 2 holes on the sides. You'll need to line up the grub screw with one of those holes. This just takes some trial and error. Go ahead and reattach the barrel. You're going to want to put in the front sling mount first. Then you're going to take the spring and drop that in. And then lastly, the barrel nut button. Just kind of work that way in. You have to make sure that the front side is lined up so that the button can go in. And you'll notice that there's these 2 slots on the barrel. And I'm just going to show you that basically all you've got here is the spring, and then this little plastic nub, this little plastic ring is holding on the barrel nut. But you have these 2 slots. One of these need to be oriented to the top. So just pick whatever angle you like better. Traditionally, the muzzle brake should be at an angle. So just going to fit that in, and you'll notice, and also make sure that the hop-up arm is still in the hop-up as it should, and the spring in front of it. Just go and screw that into however far you want the hop-up engaged. Once that ratcheting starts, you can stop if you want. Reassemble the lower. Pin goes in from the left side. There we go. Looks pretty good. Bolt and spring. Just goes in at an angle, and then it goes forward. And then lastly, the receiver cover. I just like to give it a good karate chop, and we're back together. And now we can function test. Just make sure you're holding down the grip safety. Looks good. Unfortunately, I forgot to do this while I was disassembling the gun, so I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Show how to disassemble the stock. It's very simple once you know how to do it. You will need a clamp of some kind, and what you're going to want to do is this sling mount can be compressed, but it's very difficult to do so. So you're going to want to take your clamp and try to get that compressed, and it's kind of difficult. There we go. Yeah, it looks pretty good, I think. And you can see up here there is a C-clamp on the top, and you're just going to remove that. Carefully not to lose it. Then, let off the pressure, and out comes the sling mount, and the stock can be removed now. Oh yeah, and the spring just needs to come out the bottom, and there you go. The stock is detached. And just align this sling mount however you want. And now it's just as simple as putting the C-clamp back on. Whew, and there we go. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult getting it back on. So, all right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the second part of the KWC UZI disassembly. The third part will be coming up soon, and we will disassemble the bolt and piston. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about the steps that I took to disassemble the upper, or anything about the KWC UZI, please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to go back and watch the lower disassembly, part 1. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great one, guys.